Hello, friends. Welcome back to English Classes Online. My name is Benjamin. In today's video, we want to look at one important aspect of English grammar that enables us to talk about people and things, and that is noun clauses. So this is Learn English Grammar, and it is all about helping you to gain proficiency in the use of English. If you are new to this channel, kindly subscribe to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. You will find a red button tagged subscribe. Click on it and you will be subscribed to the channel. Click on the bell icon as well, so that whenever a new video goes live on this channel, you'll be notified instantly. Let's dive into the lesson right away. Now, let's begin with this basic question. What is a noun clause? A noun clause is a subordinate clause that can replace a noun in a sentence. In other words, is a subordinate clause that can do the work of a noun in a sentence. And some of the grammatical functions of nouns in sentences include a subject, doing the work of a subject, an object, or a complement. We will look at this in specific, in greater details as we continue. Now, a noun clause is a group of words. That's the first feature we want to notice about a noun clause. It's a group of words. Then it has a subject-verb combination, and it is used as a noun in a sentence. Now, let's quickly look at examples. You can see example I, why the man resigned is still unknown. The noun clause here is why the man resigned. All right. Here you can see the subject-verb combination. Now, when we look at this, when we analyze this, then we break this into the various components. The man is the subject here. Resigned is the verb. All right. So these are two mandatory elements in a noun clause. You have to have the subject and you have to have the verb. All right. These are two important parts of a noun clause. And then another thing we notice is that this particular noun clause begins with a WH word. All right. This is a relative adverb, if you like. Why the man resigned is still unknown. Then you have other WH words that can begin a noun clause, such as what, when, where, who. All right. And so on and so forth. Then some of these words that begin the noun clause are relative pronouns, some are conjunctions, some are relative adverbs. All right. Now let's look at the second example. They believe in what they don't even know. Now the noun clause here is want what they don't even know. What they don't even know. Now let's analyze this and identify the important elements. You can see the WH word what beginning the clause. Then the subject here is they. This is the subject. Don't even know, all right, is the verb, all right? Don't even know. So you have the subject-verb combination in this noun clause. So this gives you an idea of what a noun clause is. Now, why do we use noun clauses? Very important to know. Number one, noun clauses help us to identify who or what we are talking about. For example, if you say something has been done or an action has been taken, which is what most English sentences express, of course, you have to identify who did what. And that is what we call the subject. The subject is the doer of the action reported within a sentence. Now, for example, how he did it is what we can't tell. Now, how he did it is the noun clause here, how he did it. But then you need to understand that a noun can replace this noun clause. All right? How he did it is what we can't tell. All right? So now, this actually is the subject. When we analyze this sentence, you discover that this noun clause occupies the subject position. All right? And by occupying the subject position, it helps us to identify who actually is being talked about. All right? What we are talking about. What we are talking about is how he did it. And of course, we can replace this with a word such as John. All right, we can say John is what we can't tell. Well, that may not make real meaning, but if we find a relevant noun, a single word that can be there, then it can fit in. All right, so then is the verb. All right, and then what we can't tell is the complement. The complement always comes after a linking verb. The linking verb here is. Any verb formed from the verb be, or to be, if you like, you know, or the various forms of the verb be, you know, are known as linking verbs. And normally a complement comes after a linking verb. Now let's look at the second reason why we use noun clauses. We use noun clauses because they enable us to know who received an action performed by the subject, either directly or indirectly. Now, we have talked about the fact that noun clauses help us to identify who or what we are talking about. In some cases, or which in some cases is the doer of the action. All right. So then if an action is performed, then if someone receives the action. For example, if someone takes a kind action of giving money, you know, giving money out, then there must be a receiver who received it. You know, John gave $1,000, you know, gave who? Now the person who receives this $1,000 is the object, is the receiver of the action of giving performed by the subject John. So what the noun clause does is that, you know, it enables us to identify the object. All right. For example, I know where Emma lives. Now, we can analyze this subject, and then I is the subject, know is the verb, I know. Then where Emma lives is the noun clause, and this is the object. This is the object. We can replace this noun clause with someone's name. For example, I know Mark. I know Mark, you know. I know the man. I know the woman. All right. Now, so that is exactly to show or confirm that a noun clause actually replaces a noun in a sentence. And if it replaces a noun, it also means that a noun can replace a noun clause. And that is why we can replace where Emma lives with John. I know John, or I know Mark, or I know Rose. All right. Okay, so now let's look at, but then the fact here is that this is occupying the object position. The object is the receiver of the action. And so when we talk about I know, someone will ask you, I know what? You know what? You know, what you know is actually what receives the action of knowing, and that is the object. I know where Emma lives. Now, the third reason why we use noun clauses is that they help us to describe the person or thing being talked about. And in this case, we use a complement to describe the subject, all right, or the object. All right, so here, let's look at the example here. My joy is that God is on the throne. So my joy is the subject here. My joy is what we are talking about. That's the subject. My joy is, all right, that is the verb. And then that God is on the throne is the complement. So a complement is a group of a word or a group of words that completes the meaning of either the subject or the verb. In this case, the complement is giving us information about the subject. So if I say my joy is, and I pause, someone, the listener will ask me what, you know, your joy is what? So what completes, you know, that particular, that gap is a complement. It can be a noun or a noun phrase or a noun clause. It can also be an adjective. All right. There are two things that function as adjectives in English sentences. One is a noun or a noun element. The other is an adjective or an adjective element. All right. For instance, we can say my joy is complete. Complete is an adjective, thereby describing my joy. So again, my joy here is described by the complement, which is that God is on the throne. All right. My joy is that God is on the throne. This is the complement. As I said earlier, the complement always comes after a linking verb. The linking verb here is. All right. Okay, so now the next thing we want to look at is how to identify a noun clause in a sentence. How do we identify a noun clause in a sentence? Number one, we have to bear in mind that a noun clause is a group of words. All right, it is a group of words. Now, let's begin to look at the two examples we have here. The noun clause here is how he did it, all right, is what we can't tell. How he did it is a group of words because it's not a single word. This is made up of 4 words. how he did it. 4 words. All right. So a group of words is, 2 or more words, and that is what a noun clause is. Now, the second thing that will help us to identify a noun clause is that it contains a subject-verb combination. Now, again, let's look at this. Let's analyze it further. All right. Now, the subject here is he. Okay. Did is the verb. All right. It, of course, is the object. So this sentence has SVO structure. But again, you will have the subject-verb combination. That is one other thing that enables us to identify a noun clause. The third thing is that a noun clause is usually a dependent clause. A dependent clause is a subordinate clause, and that means that it cannot stand on its own. How he did it, if we put a full stop, it cannot stand on its own because it's not a sentence. It cannot make a simple sentence, and it cannot convey complete meaning. If you simply say how he did it, someone who is listening to you will ask you, and so what? How he did it? What about that? All right. The person will like to know more, get more information about how he did it. What are you talking about? You are talking about how he did it, but what do you exactly mean? Because it doesn't have complete meaning. All right. Okay, so the same thing happens here in the second sentence, where Emma lives. If you just simply say where Emma lives, then someone will want to know more about what you are talking about, where Emma lives. So what happens to where Emma lives? All right, what exactly are saying about where Emma lives? Because it doesn't make complete meaning. It doesn't give complete idea of what you are really talking about. Okay, so that is the third thing we need to know about a noun clause. The fourth feature is that it begins with a conjunction such as what, who, whom, whatever, whether, when, how, why. All right, so you can see that this one starts with how, this one starts with where. So take note of what begins a noun clause. A noun clause does not begin with a noun. It does not begin with a pronoun. It begins with a conjunction or a relative pronoun or let's say a relative adverb. All right. So that is exactly the fourth thing we ought to know when we are looking for a noun clause in a sentence. How we identify the noun clause is by, looking for these features of the noun clause. Now, number 5, it provides answer to the question what or who. So basically, these two examples, provide answer to the question what. Now, let's put a dash here and we say is what we can't tell. All right. So if you simply say to someone is what we can't tell, the person will ask you what is what we can't tell, what? Then you will say how he did it is what we can't tell. All right. So a noun clause always provides an answer to the question what. That is why when I explain to my students how to identify a grammatical structure by its name, as you will find in some English exams, such as West African Senior School Certificate Examination or National Examinations Council or NAPTEP or any other school certificate examination, you see that you use what I call the border principle, all right? The border principle. How do we use the border principle? Let me explain this to you, all right? Now, you can see that we are talking about where Emma lives, and we want to know the grammatical name given to this grammatical structure. We use the border principle, and so we can analyze this. Of course, we know that this is a subject, all right? Then know is a verb, and this particular grammatical structure, this expression where Emma lives, shares a common boundary with know. So how do we use the border principle to identify the grammatical name given to this expression where Emma lives? What we do is we say, I know, and we put a full stop here. Then we raise a natural question, a question that arises naturally, from our, bringing the sentence to an end unnaturally. We have not completed the sentence, so we put a full stop. And because we put a full stop and we are leaving out some information, then a question naturally arises. Now, what that question is that naturally arises determines the grammatical name of that structure. Now, let's experiment with this. Now, you are talking to someone and you simply say, I know, and you pause. You just stop there. I know. Now, what kind of question is the listener likely to ask you? That question will just arise naturally. Now, I can hear you. I can guess that you are trying to figure out what this question should be. It's just natural. It comes naturally. When I say, I know, what are you going to ask me? Yes, that's quite correct. You will ask me naturally, what? What do you know? What do you know? I know. What? All right. So because the question is what, that confirms that this particular noun phrase, this particular expression is a noun clause, is at least a noun element, because it is a structure or an expression that belongs to the noun family that answers the question what. And when the question is what, then it is about someone or about something. All right. So, and that shows it is a noun or a noun phrase or a noun clause. Now, how do we know it's a noun clause? Because apart from answering the question what, it has the subject-verb combination. Emma is the subject and lives is the verb. So it has a subject-verb combination and it begins with a WH word. That shows us it is a noun clause. So you can see how we are able to quite accurately identify the name given to this particular grammatical expression, all right? The grammatical name given to this expression where Emma lives. If you browse through this channel, if you check the description section, you will find a video on how to identify grammatical names and functions, all right? And that actually will enable you to get a detailed explanation on this subject, all right? So now let's continue. How do we use noun clauses in a sentence? We now want to look at the grammatical functions of noun clauses. Now, the first grammatical function is as subject of a verb. We can use a noun clause as the subject of a verb. For example, what James did wasn't good at all. Now, the noun clause here is what James did. What James did. All right? And so this is the subject. The subject is what we are talking about, or the doer of the action in a sentence, what James did. And so this is the verb. Good is the complement. At all is the adjunct. Again, if you check the description section, you will find a video I uploaded on, elements of the sentence structure, elements of the sentence structure. There are 5 elements of the sentence structure, SVOCA, or what I call the acronym SVOCA, SVOCA. Now you can see that, S stands for subject, V stands for verb, O stands for object, C stands for complement, and A stands for adjuncts. All right, so these are the 5 elements of a sentence, the 5 elements of a sentence, and these 5 elements provide the various functions of a noun, or the functions of a noun phrase, or the functions of a noun clause. Now, the subject is what or who we are talking about. So, and in this first example, what James did wasn't good at all. That is the subject, what James did. Then the second one here is why he did it. All right, why he did it. That is a noun clause, and it is also the subject. Why he did it is still unclear to us. All right, let's leave out the rest of this. Our analysis is focused on the noun clause, and here it is functioning as the subject of the verb is. All right, now again, you discover that it is all about what we are talking about. So if we leave this expression, we put a dash here, and we say dash is still unclear to us. The question is what? What is still unclear to us? Why he did it. And usually the subject comes at the initial position of the subject of the sentence. You can look at this here and you see that the sentence elements begin with the subject S, followed by the verb, followed by the object, followed by the complement, and followed by the adjunct. All right, check the elements of sentence structure, a video uploaded. You will find it among the related videos in the description section below. Now, the second grammatical function of the noun clause is object of a verb. We can use a noun clause as the object of a verb. For example, we don't know why he resigned. The noun clause here is why he resigned. And if we analyze this sentence, then we begin with the first element here, which is we, that occupies the subject position. Don't know is the verb, and then why he resigned is the object. As I earlier explained, the object is the receiver of an action in a sentence, while the subject is the doer of the action, or the person or thing we are talking about. All right, so again, you always find that the noun clause provides answer to the question what. So if we say we don't know and we put a full stop, the listener will ask us a question naturally. We don't know. The question is what? You don't know what? We don't know why he resigned. All right? Now, the second example, they received whatever the man gave them. All right? Again, when we analyze this, the first word here is they, and that occupies the subject position. They. Received is the verb. All right? Whatever the man gave them is the object. Again, that answers the question what. When you say they receive and you stop there, the listener will ask, received what? Well, they received whatever the man gave them. Now let's look at the third function of the noun clause, and that is subject complement. A complement is a word or group of words that completes the meaning of the subject, that describes something or adds meaning, gives us information about what we are talking about. That is the complement. So again here, we can begin with the first element, a man. This is the subject. Is, this is the verb. What his thinking makes him. A man is what his thinking makes him. This is the complement. And so the complement is the description of the subject. The complement is what exactly the subject is about. For example, if we put a full stop here, if we say a man is, and we put a dash, the question that arises naturally is what? Is what? A man is what? And so what completes this sentence is the complement, which is a noun clause. A man is what his thinking makes him. Then the second example, the sad news was that Rose lost her husband in the plane crash. Now, again, let's begin the analysis with the first element of this sentence, which, let me remove this and then make it clear. All right, so the first is the sad news, and that is the subject. Was is the verb. That Rose lost her husband in the plane crash is the complement. So we represent it with C, the letter C. So we have a sentence that has the SVC structure, SVC. All right, again, you will find that various English sentences have various structures. And so, you know, when we examine the English language, we can begin to analyze the structure of the English language. And that is why English expressions can also be called grammatical structures. Every word, every expression you write or utter has a definite structure, and we can analyze it in terms of the sentence elements. We can analyze it into its various grammatical constituencies or components, talking about subject, verb, object, complement, adjunct. So here we can see that this complement is the description of the sad news. Now, what is the sad news? The sad news was or when we say, what was the sad news? The sad news was that Rose lost her husband in the plane crash. Now, what can you tell us about the fact that Rose lost her husband in the plane crash? And we can say it was the sad news. That was the sad news we heard. All right. So what happened is that the subject is the complement and the complement is the subject. Now, how do I mean? Now, let me give you analysis of this. Now, if we say Mark is a boy, well, let's make this definite. Is the boy who, well, let's make this definite. Well, let's say Mark is the timekeeper. All right, Mark is the timekeeper. All right, so when we analyze this, you can see, let's analyze this. Mark is the subject here. I want to show you the relationship between the subject and the complement. Then the verb is, and then the complement is the timekeeper. Now, what we are saying is that Mark equals the timekeeper, and the timekeeper equals Mark. Well, if we have to use expressions, you know, in that mathematical manner. Now, Mark is the timekeeper. Now, when we ask a question, who is the timekeeper? We say Mark. Who is Mark, the timekeeper? Who is the timekeeper? Mark. Who is Mark, the timekeeper? So that's exactly what the complement does. The complement gives us the exact description of the subject, and that is why we call this the subject complement. All right, subject complement, because the complement completes the meaning of the subject. And so if we say Mark is and we put a dash, what we complete it is the timekeeper. And that gives us exactly the exact description of Mark. All right. Okay, so now let's look at function number 4, the fourth function of the noun clause. We can use the noun clause as the object of a preposition. Of course, you know a preposition. A preposition is a word which indicates a relationship between one thing and another, or between one part of the sentence and another. It indicates a relationship. For instance, if we look at the word on, all right, the word on is a preposition. And then we look at the word book. Well, let me type instead of writing, all right? Okay. The book is dash the table, all right? So you see that what the preposition does is to indicate the relationship between the book and the table, all right? there's a relationship between the book and the table, and the relationship is indicated by the preposition on. All right, so we can see that there is a relationship between the book and the table. So if you are looking for the book, then you have to locate the table, and you will find that the book is on top of the table. So the preposition indicates the relationship that exists between one thing and another. All right, so this exactly gives you what a preposition is. All right, so now let's look at how the noun clause functions as the object of a preposition. For example, Okon wasn't interested in what his mother was saying. Now, the preposition here is in. And again, if we use the border principle and we say Okon wasn't interested in, and we put a full stop, the question that naturally arises is what? Okon wasn't interested in what? You can say he wasn't interested in the music, he wasn't interested in the dance, he wasn't interested in the song, he wasn't interested in the match. So these are all noun phrases, all right? But then this is a noun clause, and again, it replaces a noun. So when the question arises, Okon wasn't interested in what? Well, what provides answer to that question, what, is a noun clause. And the noun clause here is what his mother was saying. Okon wasn't interested in what his mother was saying. So you can see that there is a relationship existing between what his mother was saying and what Okon wasn't interested in. All right? The fact that Okon wasn't interested, all right, and what his mother was saying. So what indicates the relationship between these two things is the preposition in. And then the object of this preposition is this noun clause. That's the object. All right. Now let's look at the second example. The first prize will be given to whoever scores the highest mark in the exam. All right, so let's bring this back. All right. So we can look at this. The first prize will be given to whoever scores the highest mark in the exam. Now, the preposition here is to, and what comes after it is this noun clause. And so we say that this noun clause is used as the object of the preposition to. And again, it provides answer to the question what. The first prize, what or whom. All right, so I told you it answers the question what or who or whom. Now, that's what the kind of information the noun clause provides. Now, let's look at this. The first prize will be given to dash. So if we put a full stop and we say the first prize will be given to, and we don't complete it, you will ask the question naturally. To whom? All right? To whom? And then the answer is to whoever scores the highest mark in the exam. Don't forget that because this is a noun clause, we can replace it with a noun. And the noun is the name of a person, animal, place, thing, or idea. So let's put the name of John here. Does it fit in? Yes, it does. So we can say that the first prize will be given to John. Grammatical or not? Of course, grammatical. Is grammatically correct. And so that shows us exactly what a noun clause is. A noun clause is a group of words or a subordinate clause, if you like, that can replace a noun in a sentence. Okay? Now, let's look at function number 5. A noun clause can be used as the object complement. And what this means is that the noun clause will be completing the meaning of the object we have in a sentence. For example, the returning officer, well, something is omitted here. Well, let's all right. Now let's use the word declared or announced. All right. The returning officer announced the winner or declared winner, if you like, whoever has the highest number of votes. All right. Now, you can see here the returning officer announced the winner. Now, the winner here is the object, because that is the receiver of the action of the announcement. All right, announced the winner. That's the object. And then the question that arises is, who is the winner? For example, the returning officer announced the winner, and you, the listener, will want to know who was announced the winner. And so what completes this is naturally the noun clause, which is the object complement. All right. The returning officer announced the winner, whoever has the highest number of votes. Now, the second example will make this clearer, because we are using a common verb, you know, that we can call an action verb. All right. And that's the verb gave. He gave his wife. If we put a full stop here, the question that arises naturally is what? He gave his wife. He gave his wife what? Well, we find the noun clause coming to the rescue and providing the relevant information. He gave his wife whatever he could afford that moment. Now, this can be replaced with a noun phrase or even a noun. He gave his wife money. He gave his wife a bag. He gave his wife a car. All right. So that shows that we are talking about a noun clause that can be replaced with a noun or a noun phrase. But here we can, when we analyze this sentence, we discover that we have an object. Now, this is the subject. Gave is the verb. All right. And then his wife is the object. All right. So you can see here we have an object, his wife. And then what comes after the object is the object complement, because that is a group of words that completes the meaning of the object. It tells us what was given to the wife. All right. So that is one particular function of the noun clause. Now, function number 6 is adjective complement. It means we can use a noun clause as the complement of an adjective or as an adjective complement. Again, you see, complement is something that completes the meaning of another. So when we have an adjective in a sentence, and by the way, an adjective is the word that, you know, modifies or qualifies or describes a noun or a pronoun. All right. So here we can see. Now, this is the subject, and this is the verb. Now, this is the verb, not complement. This is supposed to be the complement, but then this complement is also, is also giving additional description. All right, this additional description is the complement. It complements the complement, which incidentally is an adjective. So you can see it here. Now, she was happy. And again, the question that arises here, you might want to know the reason for her being happy. You want additional information about her being happy here. And so this additional information is provided by a noun clause, and that completes the meaning of the adjective happy. Okay, so here she was happy that her daughter was getting married. She was happy that her daughter was getting married. So you can see exactly what this noun clause does here in this sentence. All right. So, and this is where we draw the curtain in today's video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like the video and share it with your friends and relations. If you have not subscribed to this channel, this is the appropriate time for you to really hit the, the subscribe button. You will find a red button tagged subscribe. Hit that subscribe button as a way of giving support to this channel. If you have really gotten value, you are the reason why we do what we do on this channel, and we spend time and we pay attention and we try to provide you with valuable content. And the only way you can really show support to us for doing what we are doing here is by subscribing to this channel, and to make sure that you continue to watch quality videos without missing any of them. You also need to click on the bell icon so that whenever a video is uploaded newly, you will be given instant notification. Whenever I upload a new video, you receive the notification that I have uploaded a new video, and that will give you the opportunity to always watch videos uploaded on this channel. Now, having said that, I want to add that if you have any comments, if you have any suggestions, or if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section below. If you are interested in looking for related videos, I have quite a number of them. So check the description section and you'll find a number of other videos that will help you to learn more, either in the area of grammar or in the area of summary writing, comprehension, letter writing, essay writing, article writing, debate writing, speech writing, giving a presentation, writing skills of different types. On this channel too, we upload videos on content creation, on digital marketing, and also on internet business. We share ideas that will help you to create multiple streams of income by starting an online business. I want to say a big thank you to all of you for being part of today's episode, and of course to everyone out there who has being part of this community. I want to say a very big thank you to all of you. I love all of you out there. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye for now, and remain blessed. Many thanks for watching today's video. A big thank you to all of you out there for being part of today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, kindly subscribe to this channel. Subscribe now as a way of giving us support. For notification about new videos, click on the bell icon. You will find the bell icon. Click on it so that whenever a new video is uploaded, you will be instantly notified. If you have actually enjoyed the video, like and share the video with your friends and relatives. This is very important. If you have any comments, leave your comments below. Any questions, any suggestions, we would gladly receive them and respond promptly and positively to them. See you in the next video. I look forward to always seeing you in the new video.